Cricbuzz Chatter at the end of day 4 of this test match. No, hang on. Cricbuzz Chatter at the end of this test match. Hang on. Cricbuzz Chatter that last only 3.5 days of the test match. I mean, there we were sitting together, both on television and here, talking of what might be and how you play out the new ball. And therefore, can you set a lead of 140, 150? It changed rather quickly. Last 7 wickets fell for 41, 54 minutes, coming and going. And he's got a smile on his face. Michael Vaughan. You've gone back to Manchester.
Oh, yeah, I'm back. I'm back early.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm just thinking about that batting performance. I remember saying, after day 3, I think, or day 2, I think that 78 was an aberration, that India had got to 215 for 2. I'm starting to worry a little bit about these batting collapses. I mean, there was a 36 in Australia, then a sudden collapse again here in the first innings, just 78 all out. Second innings, 40 for 7. When you look at that fall of wickets, 3 for 215 when Pujara got out, little partnership of 22, 237 for 4 to 278 all out happened in 54 minutes. And that must be a bit worrisome. I mean, even stock markets have circuit breakers if it starts to go down too quickly. I don't think India have a circuit breaker, Michael.
I think there's a disease going on. I know there's an awful disease called COVID that's kind of changed the world in the last 18 months. But I think there's a disease called collapse that goes around Test match cricket in this generation. England have got that disease. It didn't happen to them this week, but India have had it. They've had it this week. They had it in Australia. When the ball just does a little bit, it's challenging, and your mind's got to be good. Your technique has to be right on top of your game. I actually thought today India got some really good deliveries. You know, I thought there was some good balls out there. I mean, England just got the straps right. They hit the lengths. They got the movement. They got a little bit of bounce off a length. Ollie Robinson and Jimmy Anderson were just wobbling it either way. And I actually looked at India's batting today, and I thought they were determined to try and play the right way. It was the first innings where they let themselves down. That was a lot of mistakes when the ball was moving around. And when you get bowled out for 78, it really is. 67 England were bowled out only 2 years ago and they won the game. That doesn't happen often. I mean, it doesn't happen in our lifetime. Maybe just the once, Harsha. So it was just the first innings. And then you're pretty much into a slow procession of when you're going to lose. And it just happened to finish quicker than we thought. I thought they would bat quite a lot of the day. I thought England would have to chase something. And I thought it actually might go into day 5. But in Ollie Robinson, England have found one. No question.
I'm going to talk to you about him.
Found a ball, particularly.
I'm going to talk to you about him as we go along. We're mighty impressed with him and with Craig Overton. But I'd like to get your view on the batting. I mean, I know you said crazy, silly things happen at Headingley. They didn't happen this time because for India to go on and win it, it would have been that way. There's a sameness to the dismissals with this Indian team. I mean, you put 4 pictures of Kohli getting out. You put 4 pictures of Rahane getting out. There's a sameness. You see exactly where the balls are pitching, the ones that are getting Rishabh Pant out. There's a sameness to it that I think must worry Indian sports fans, but must worry the Indian team as well. Is there another way to approach it? I mean, I thought Pujara showed another way to approach it on day 3. But there's a sameness, isn't there? I mean, and you're absolutely right. England bowled well. I actually thought England bowled really well on the third morning too, and in that pre-lunch period when India just about got to 34, losing KL Rahul. But yes, England are bowling well. But people are allowed to bowl well, aren't they? I mean, you played against a lot of teams that bowled well. You can't be 7 for 41 if teams are bowling well.
Yeah, that's the problem for India, that the dismissals for all the players now are common. You know, it's just it's like a DVD that you keep playing. It's just the same. You know, for all the different players, England have got the plans, and over a 5-match series, you as a player has to work out different kind of counter punches. You know what the tactics are going to be. I mean, Ollie Robinson after the game today said, "Yeah, we're just going to bowl full of length on and around 4/5 stump to Virat Kohli." That's where they're going to bowl to him. So it's now up to Virat to try and work that out. I thought he played well in the second innings. I thought he left the ball nicely, and then he got a decent ball. But it's a ball that he could have left. He could have left that ball. But Rahane is an issue, Harsha. And I think when you have these common and trends that are happening, you have to make change. England made change. They've got rid of Crawley. They've got rid of Sibley. I think India need to make change. England need to see a different face or two on Thursday at the Oval. I mean, Rahane, I'll ask you, Is he being back because of what he did with his captaincy? Is he being back because he's obviously had some outstanding innings in his last few years? But consistency-wise, he just doesn't seem to be able to find the consistency at Test level.
I mean, everybody's very fond of Ajinkya Rahane. He embodies all that you want in a player. He's very tough. He's a fabulous team player. He's willing to take the chance for the team. But eventually, we're all judged by the numbers and the performances we generate. With Ajinkya, I think every time you start to think, is there something the matter here? He'll play an innings that says he's got class. He did that in Melbourne. Then again, there were a few poor innings. He got a 61 here. Just before that, from before the century in Melbourne, there were a few low performances. How do you handle a player? You look at that player and you say, this person's capable of playing a match-winning innings for me, but it's not coming often enough. Do you set that person aside and say, okay, I'm giving you 2 games? Or do you say, is there an issue with you? Or do you say, do you just want to go back and figure out what's happening to you? Aware of the fact that when you're 33, 34, there aren't too many comebacks in the side. It's a tricky one. I think they all admire him for the other qualities that he brings to the side. But I agree with you. I mean, even Pujara got 91 now, but we're just not seeing the consistency at 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, I think England would like to see Rihani again. And when you know that the opposition, I think India wanted to see Sibley again. You know, when you get to the stage where the opposition team are quite happy to see players get another game, you have to make the change. You know, India need to arrive on Thursday with a different mindset, and I'm sure they'll find that. They're a good team. They'll get back on track with their mindset. But I think a different personnel as well. I think they need to offer England someone else to think about in terms of the batting department and also in the bowling department. You know, Joe Root now has strolled himself to over 500 runs, and he's been facing the same bowlers, doing the same things. I know we'll talk about it. I don't know if we want to talk about it now, but hashtag bring Ashwin back will get trending over the next few days. And I will start it. And I'm not an Indian fan, but if you want me to start it, Harsha, I will start the hashtag bring Ashwin back.
I mean, Ishan Sharma looked like he'd run 1 race too many when he was running into World. We talked about whether he's short of a gallop. Now you're asking if he's got too many races to run. I'm surprised, honestly. But if you notice what Virat said to Michael Atherton in the post-game conference, he said, "Yeah, we'll look at the pitch, we'll look at the conditions." I mean, Athers was literally putting words in his mouth, saying, "Are you going to pick Ashwin there or no?" And he said, "We'll look at the conditions, but I quite like this template." He said again. So I don't know what he's going to do, because Jadeja is giving him a wicket here, a wicket there. He's not giving him too much. Pant is not scoring enough runs, so you need someone else to bat at 8. But the 4 fast bowlers at 8, I mean, what happened at Lords in the second innings was sort of comic book stuff. I mean, it happens once in a lifetime with Bumrah and Shami, or maybe it'll happen once a series at best. So India need that. I think India also need a quality spinner. So there's word now. I think there'll be a little movement building up. Do you play 6 batsmen? Because India's batting is a bit iffy. Do you bring in Hanuma Vihari as well as a batsman, and then play Pant at 7, play Ashwin and 3 seamers, or do India want to play 5? Yeah, but I think I'm waffling, am I not? India need Ashwin back. I'll retweet.
So you'll retweet my hashtag bring Ashwin back. You're going to retweet?
Yes. You'll make a very good anchor, Michael. You'll make a very good anchor on a news show, because typically on news shows the anchors are asking for an answer, and the guests are waffling round and round saying nothing, which I did for about a minute. Yeah, but I think India need to do that. Also, I think India need to see if a spinner can get wickets, and you know conditions at the Oval much better than anybody else. It'll be a great batting surface, and on a great batting surface, you need a more pedigreed bowler, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, the next 2 test matches, that's why India certainly have a chance, because the Oval will swing if the conditions are right, and it'll carry through to the keeper, but also there'll be a bit of spin. Old Trafford will be very similar. The ball will carry through, but there will be spin. So the next 2 test matches, batting will be the key. Obviously, they're going to have to bat a damn sight better than we've seen in Leeds, but, big scores, 500, no, I think 350. That kind of number at the Oval and at Old Trafford will be very, very competitive, because certainly they'll be seen, but there'll also be quite a lot of spin over the next couple of weeks, particularly in the conditions we've got now. It's quite hot, surprisingly. It's apparently going to be hot for another few days. So
you're hot or our hot, Michael?
Down at the Oval.
You're hot or our hot? You're hot. I mean, today Leeds.
No, it's our hot.
Today Leeds was hot at 18 degrees. So I think it's a bit different. But tell me, Michael, are you the kind of person who loves his own records? do you sort of hold on to them proprietorially, saying, I won 26 tests, and now that the little whippersnapper who was little kid in shorts now won 27?
So let me tell you something about Joe Root. He's pretty much stolen everything that I've ever done. I'm just expecting him to steal my wife next.
You didn't say that. You didn't say that. Editor, cut. Michael's home is in trouble.
He's done everything. I mean, he's stole my batting records, my hundreds records, now my captaincy records. What I will say is I don't think tonight he'll really celebrate that. He'll celebrate that his team are back in this series. And I think, you start celebrating what you've done once you finish your career. The one thing that he desperately needs for his captaincy and the feather in the captaincy hat, and it needs to be the best and the biggest, but it's the smallest, is that urn. In English cricket, when you sign to be the England Test match captain, not many of us admit it, but you sign up and the first thing you think about is, I want to beat Australia. I want to be one of those lucky few that have had that chance to stand on the podium and lift the urn. And if he can be that captain at the end of the winter with the urn, he's pretty much accomplished everything with his captaincy in Test match cricket as well. He also want to win this series. I think to win this series, it'll give him a better chance and more confidence to go down under to try and get that little urn. But he's stealing everything, Harsha.
I mean, if he doesn't win the Ashes, I know exactly what Michael's going to do. He'll tap him on the back and say, congratulations on the wins, congratulations on the hundreds, congratulations on the runs. By the way, I got this. Do you know what that looks like? I can almost see you doing that. I interrupted you a little earlier when you were talking about Robinson, because I wanted to put you in the hot spot and compare him to some of the other people, because he's been mighty impressive. So Michael Vaughan on the hot spot. He's growing, isn't he, Michael? And that's one thing you look for in a player. Is he growing? Is he looking better in one test than the other, I thought today benefited enormously from a beautiful spell of bowling by Jimmy Anderson. It only fetched him one wicket, but he bowled beautifully. His second innings records I couldn't believe Jimmy Anderson's second innings records over the last 8 or 9 games. He had 2 wickets, taking a wicket every 60 overs or something as silly as that. There's a silly thing about Headingley. But I thought he bowled beautifully. But this is about Robinson. He seems to grow. The captain's throwing him the ball and saying, okay, other than Anderson, you're my key bowler. And he's getting the big players out. He's getting them out away movement. He's getting the left-hander out with that movement. I think you found a special player.
Yeah, I said it on our TV over here. Of all the England bowlers that I've seen come into Test match cricket, and that includes Broad and Anderson, after 4 Test matches, I haven't seen anyone better. Jofra Archer, he came into the scene and was explosive, but Ollie Robinson, 4 games in, yes, the Duke ball, it moves and it's perfect for him. And I guess, what we're looking at is someone that looks very consistent in English conditions. He's very smart. He's created a wobble seam, which Jimmy Anderson taught him last week, that he brought into this week's game. So he's picking up new skills and he can deliver them under pressure out in the middle straight away, which is a great sign. Give me a year and I need to see him overseas. I need to see him bowling in proper heat, not the heat that we have here, but, in Brisbane when it's properly hot, with a ball, not a Duke, and it's not going to be hooping round corners. Can he continue to bowl at 83 miles an hour overseas when it's hotter and it's longer days and the ball's not zipping through to the keeper? But he looks like he's got everything. He looks like he's got pretty much everything that you'd look for in an 82 to 84 miles an hour seamer. Very Josh Hazelwood-like. That's how I look at him. So I think you're right, Harsha. England look to have found one, but the start of your career sometimes can be the easiest part of the time, because the opposition don't really know you and they're just having a look at you and they're trying to work you out. Let's see him for another year, but he looks like a fine player.
And he's gone off Twitter, which is not such a bad thing. So he's gone off Twitter too.
Yes.
So at his age, he's probably just better off focusing on the game. I quite like Craig Overton, I must admit, because he's tall, he hits the deck, he's very good coming behind the new ball. He can bat, as we saw a little bit of. And how often do you get these big fellows standing at third slip and taking catches? So I think there's a decent package there. But I agree with you completely. We've all seen cricket in Australia, where on a hot day, the ball's not moving around and the batsmen are belting you. That's when your character really comes up. Right before we finish, Michael had said 3-1. It seemed a great prediction at Lord's. Is it looking just as good after Leeds?
Well, yeah, because I didn't have England winning the game after Lords.
Yeah.
So there's the one. I will say that from what I've seen from India this week, it concerns me that my prediction might be wrong. But I do think we've got two teams that are a little bit like Jekyll and Hyde. You're really not sure. You're not sure what's going to arrive at the Oval. One thing's for sure is India will have to do what England did this week, and that first day at the Oval is going to be hugely important for the Indian side. If they win the first day, they'll be fine. They'll come back into the series, and I'm sure they'll gain that confidence again. If they lose that first day at the Oval, the Headingley memories might come flooding back. I still think India have a better Test team. I do, but this England side at home, they take some beatings. It's only New Zealand that have beaten a Joe Root side in English conditions. So Virat has got a lot of work to do over the next few days to get his team, first and foremost, mentally right, but also selection. They have to get the team selected correctly for the conditions that they're going to find down in London.
There's one thing peculiarly that might be in their favor, which is every time they're attacked, they seem to regroup and come back really strong. When everything seems gone, they come back. It's almost as if they need the world to be arrayed against them. And when that happens, they come back very strongly. They've done it 3 or 4 times. But I just worry a little bit about this, what I call the afterglow. A lot of Olympic medalists have talked about it. There's a sense of once you won something big, it's very difficult to pick yourself up. It happened after the Ashes. It happened after the Tour of Australia when they suddenly turned up bland and flat in Chennai and then changed the pitches and then beat England after that. Great Test match win at Lords. I think you might have said it at the end of day 2 that you didn't recognize India. They just seem to have turned up for the first couple of Test matches. So now that they suddenly feel the need to prove people they might do well. But this is something I think great teams have to get over. One of the great things about Australia in their prime was they were front runners. They liked being the leaders and they liked coming hard at you. I don't know how, did you see that in your career as well, that a high was very difficult to maintain? Post the Ashes, for example, 2005?
Yeah, I think so. I think we'd reached the top of our mountain in 2005 with the team that we had. I'm surprised by India if they're thinking that they've reached the top of their mountain, because they haven't.
I don't know. I'm just thinking aloud because I've seen that happening a couple of times.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't win the World Test Match Championship, so they've got that to go for. They won in Australia. I mean, that's massive, and that was great. But they haven't won here. This Virat Kohli team hasn't won in the UK, and they've got a great chance of doing so. Even now they've just lost, but they've got a great chance of winning this series. And maybe they are that kind of team that keeps needing to be prodded and criticised, and they'll all come back fighting on Thursday. But as you mentioned, that Australian side, the West Indies of the 80s, Pakistan of the early 90s, they didn't need prodding. No. They didn't need criticism. They just drove, and they kind of made it an awful time for an opposing side. I'm fascinated over the next 2 weeks how it's going to go. I'll be honest with you, I've no idea, because we've got two teams that are quite vulnerable, and it makes for fascinating Test match cricket. It really does, because anything's possible. Anything can happen. Each team could certainly collapse. We've seen that already from both sides. England generally, though, when they get into this kind of mode, they can be quite hard to stop. They can be quite difficult to stop. They seem to have got something this week. But consistency has been a problem for Joe and his team. He'll be fingers crossed that they can produce that kind of performance again at the Oval. But I don't think it'll be as easy as it has been at Leeds.
We'll wait and see. Always good fun talking to Michael Vaughan. What I do wish for Michael Vaughan's the wellness of his family and generally the good cheer in the household is the Joe Root stops at breaking his records and stealing his records. So thank you very much for joining us, Michael. We'll see you from the Oval.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.